Jake Morrison pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship and watched the massive space station grow larger before his eyes. The Galactic Defense Academy was bigger than anything he had ever seen. It looked like a small city, floating in space with hundreds of lights blinking across its metal surface. Ships of all sizes moved around it like busy insects. "First time seeing the academy?" asked the pilot, a blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. Jake had learned that his species was called Nerian, and they came from a water world far from Earth. "Yes." "Sir," Jake replied, trying not to sound too excited. He was 22 years old and had dreamed of this moment since he was a kid. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and humans were still new to everything. Most people back home thought space travel was just something you saw in movies. But here he was, about to train alongside aliens from dozens of different worlds. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Jake grabbed his bag and followed the other passengers through the airlock. The station's main corridor was huge, with a ceiling so high he could barely see it. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked past him. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange he had to stop himself from staring. A tall, thin creature, with pale green skin and long white hair, approached him. Its eyes were large and silver, and it moved with smooth, graceful steps. Jake recognized it as a Velthari from the pictures he had studied during his trip. "You must be Cadet Morrison," the alien said in perfect English, though its voice had a musical quality that sounded nothing like human speech. "I am Commander Vextar. I will be your squad leader during your training here." Jake stood straight and tried to look professional. "Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting me into the program." Commander Vextar looked Jake up and down, and Jake could not tell what the alien was thinking. Humans were still a mystery to most galactic species. Earth was considered a young world, and its people were seen as primitive compared to civilizations that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. "Follow me," Vextar said. "I will show you to your quarters and introduce you to your squad." They walked through corridors filled with amazing technology. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, and Jake saw screens floating in the air that showed information in languages he could not read. Other cadets passed by in groups, talking in voices that sounded like music, clicks, or buzzes. Jake felt very small and very human. "Tell me about yourself, Morrison," Vextar said as they walked. "What makes you think you can succeed here?" Jake thought carefully before answering. He knew that many aliens thought humans were weak or stupid. "I have been training for this my whole life, sir. I graduated top of my class at the military academy on Earth. I can learn fast, and I do not give up easily." Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Many species say such things." "We shall see." They reached a door that slid open with a soft whisper. Inside was a room with 4 beds and 4 lockers. 3 of the beds were already taken. A young woman with short brown hair looked up from a book she was reading. She was human, and Jake felt relieved to see a familiar face. "Lisa Parker," she said, standing up to shake his hand. "Earth, North America. You must be the other human they told us about." "Jake Morrison," he replied. "Same region." The second occupant of the room was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs, with 4 arms and a head that seemed to be all eyes and mouth parts. Its skin was a shiny black color that reflected the room's lights. "I am Crixon," it said in a voice that sounded like clicking and buzzing. "My people are called Zephyrins. We come from a world with 3 suns." The third squad member was sitting in a corner in what looked like a tank of water. Jake could see it was roughly human-shaped, but had blue-green skin and what looked like gills on its neck. "Thalara," the creature said, its voice somehow carrying clearly through the water. "I am Nerian, like the pilot who brought you here. I need to stay wet, so do not worry about the water tank." Jake put his bag on the empty bed and looked around the room. These 3 beings would be his squad mates for the next 6 months of training. He had studied alien species during his preparation, but being in the same room with them was very different from looking at pictures. "So, what exactly do we do here?" Jake asked. Lisa answered first. "Physical training, weapons practice, tactical simulations, and survival exercises. The Academy trains officers for the Galactic Defense Force. We learn to work together and protect civilian populations from pirates, hostile species, and other threats." "The training is designed for multiple species," Quixon added, his voice still sounding like an insect. "But it is challenging. Many cadets do not complete the program." Vexstar had been watching quietly from the doorway. "Your first session begins tomorrow at 0600 station time," he said. "You will start with basic physical training to assess your capabilities. The gravity in the training areas is set to 1.2 times standard galactic measure. This should not be difficult for any of you." After Vexstar left, Jake unpacked his few belongings. Everything he owned fit in one small bag. He had brought some pictures of his family and his home in Colorado, a few books, and his training clothes. "Are you nervous?" Lisa asked. Jake considered the question. "A little. This is all new. I keep wondering if humans really belong here." Palara spoke from her water tank. "All species feel that way when they first join the galactic community. My people felt the same way 50 years ago when we left our oceans for the first time." "The key is proving yourself," Quixon said. "Actions matter more than words here." Jake nodded and looked out the small window in their room. Space stretched out beyond the station, filled with more stars than he could count. Somewhere out there were worlds and civilizations that had existed since before humans learned to make fire. And now he was here, representing his entire species. He would not let Earth down. 3 weeks had passed since Jake arrived at the Academy, and he was starting to understand how things worked. Every morning began with physical training in the main gymnasium, where gravity was set to 1.2 times normal. It felt heavier than Earth gravity, but Jake had gotten used to it quickly. The problem was that his squad was not doing well in the training exercises. During combat simulations, Jake moved slower than his alien teammates. When they practiced climbing walls or jumping over obstacles, he always finished last. Lisa struggled too, but she seemed to handle it better than Jake did. "Morrison, you are holding us back," Quixon said after another failed training session. The Zephyrin's insect-like face was hard to read, but his tone made his feelings clear. "Your reaction time is too slow. When we need to move fast, you cannot keep up." Jake wiped sweat from his face and tried not to show his frustration. "I am doing my best. Give me more time to adjust." "Time is not something we have," Thalara said from her mobile water suit. The Nerian wore special equipment that let her move on land while staying wet. "Squad rankings come out next week. If we finish in the bottom 3, we could be removed from the program." Commander Vexstar approached their group with his usual serious expression. "Squad Delta 7, report to Briefing Room 3. We need to discuss your performance." They followed the tall Velthri through the corridors. Jake noticed other squads practicing as they walked past training rooms. Everyone seemed faster and stronger than his team. He wondered if humans really belonged here. The briefing room was small and cold. Vexstar activated a holographic display that showed their squad scores from the past 3 weeks. Red numbers indicated poor performance, and there were many red numbers next to Jake's name. "Your tactical thinking is adequate," Vexstar said, looking directly at Jake. "But your physical performance is below Academy standards. The other instructors are beginning to question whether humans can handle advanced training." Jake felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. "Sir, I can improve. I just need more practice. Perhaps, Vextar replied, but the Academy has limited time and resources. If you cannot meet minimum standards soon, you may be sent back to Earth. After the meeting, Jake walked alone to the observation deck. It was one of the few places on the station where he could think without being around other cadets. Through the large windows, he could see stars and distant planets. Earth was too far away to see, but he knew it was out there somewhere. Having trouble? A voice asked behind him. Jake turned to see another Valkyrie approaching. This one was younger than Vextar and had shorter white hair. His silver eyes seemed friendlier, and he was smiling. I am Instructor Veltosh, the alien said. I teach advanced combat techniques. I have been watching your squad's progress. Then you know we are not doing very well, Jake replied. Veltosh moved to stand beside Jake at the window. I have seen this before with new species. The transition to galactic standard training can be difficult, but I think I can help you. Jake looked at the instructor with interest. How? The gravity in our standard training areas might not be challenging enough for humans, Veltosh explained. Your species evolved on a world with specific conditions. Perhaps you need more intensive training to reach your potential. This sounded promising to Jake. What kind of training? I could arrange for you to use one of our specialized training pods, Veltosh said. These are normally reserved for advanced students, but I think you might benefit from the enhanced environment. The gravity can be adjusted to higher levels to push your physical development. Jake felt excited for the first time in weeks. That sounds exactly like what I need. When can I start? Tomorrow evening, after regular training hours, Veltosh replied. But this will be difficult. The enhanced gravity training is not something most species can handle. Are you sure you want to try? Absolutely, Jake said without hesitation. I will do whatever it takes to succeed here. Veltosh smiled and placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. Good. Meet me at Training Pod 7 tomorrow at 1900 hours. And Morrison, do not tell the other instructors about this yet. I want to see how you respond to the training before we make it official. After Veltosh left, Jake remained at the window, feeling hopeful. Maybe this enhanced training would give him the edge he needed. He thought about his family back on Earth and the expectations they had for him. His father had been a soldier, and his grandfather before him. Military service was a family tradition, and Jake was determined not to be the first Morrison to fail. Later that evening, Jake found Veltosh talking quietly with an older Zephyrin cadet named Drixel in the corridor outside the dining hall. They stopped talking when they saw Jake approaching, and both gave him friendly nods. Morrison, Drixel said in his clicking voice, I hear you will be starting enhanced training soon. Ed is very ambitious for a human. I am ready for the challenge, Jake replied. Of course you are, Veltosh said with his strange smile. Humans are known for their determination, even when facing impossible odds. Jake was not sure what to make of that comment, but he chose to take it as encouragement. I will prove that humans belong here. I am sure you will try, Drixel said, and Jake thought he heard something like amusement in the alien's voice. Next day seemed to last forever. Jake struggled through regular training, knowing that his real test would come that evening. Lisa noticed his distraction during weapons practice. You seem different today, she said as they cleaned their training. Rifles. More focused. I think I found a way to improve my performance, Jake told her. Instructor Veltosh is going to help me with some advanced training. Lisa looked concerned. Be careful, Jake. I have heard some of the alien instructors enjoy testing human limits. Make sure you know what you are getting into. It will be fine, Jake said confidently. How hard could enhanced training be? As evening approached, Jake made his way to Training Pod 7. He had no idea that Veltosh and Drixal had spent the afternoon modifying the pod's gravity controls. What they planned as a prank to humble the overconfident human was about to become something very different. Jake stood outside the pod door, took a deep breath, and prepared to prove himself worthy of the academy. Jake arrived at Training Pod 7 exactly at 1900 hours. The corridor was empty except for Veltosh, who was standing near the pod entrance with a tablet in his hands. The Velthari instructor looked up when Jake approached and gave him that same friendly smile. "Ready for your enhanced training, Morrison?" Veltosh asked. "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "What exactly will I be doing?" Veltosh gestured toward the pod door. "This training pod can simulate different environments and gravity levels. I have programmed it specifically for human physiology. The gravity will be increased to help strengthen your muscles and improve your reaction time." Jake nodded. That made sense to him. "How much higher will the gravity be?" "Twice your Earth normal," Veltosh said casually. "That should provide adequate challenge for your training needs." Jake felt a moment of concern. Double Earth gravity sounded intense. But he had read about astronauts training in centrifuges that created similar forces. "I understand. How long will each session last?" "We will start with 30 minutes and increase the time as you adapt," Veltosh replied. He pressed some buttons on his tablet. "The pod is ready. Step inside when you are prepared." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, Jake could see a room about the size of a small gymnasium. The walls were covered with soft padding, and exercise equipment was scattered around the space. Everything looked normal except for the warning lights. That blinked yellow around the doorframe. Jake stepped into the pod and immediately felt the difference. It was like someone had placed a heavy blanket over his entire body. Every step required more effort, and his arms felt like they were made of lead. He stumbled slightly, but caught himself against a nearby wall. "Gravity is now at 2.4 times galactic. Standard," Veltosh announced through speakers in the ceiling. "Begin with basic movement exercises." Outside the pod, Veltosh watched through a small window with satisfaction. He expected Jake to struggle for a few minutes before asking to reduce the gravity or quit entirely. Most species could barely move at double gravity, and humans were supposed to be weaker than average. But Jake did not quit. He took slow, careful steps around the room, testing his balance. His breathing was heavy, and sweat appeared on his forehead, but he kept moving. After 10 minutes, he was walking almost normally. "How do you feel, Morrison?" Veltosh asked through the speakers. "Heavy," Jake replied honestly, "but manageable." "Is this the maximum setting?" Veltosh was surprised by the question. "You want more gravity?" Jake had found a rhythm in his movement. The high gravity reminded him of training exercises he had done on Earth, where instructors made cadets carry heavy packs or wear weighted vests. "This is good training, but I think I could handle more. What about triple gravity?" There was silence from the speakers for several seconds. Veltosh stared at his tablet in disbelief. Triple gravity would be 3.6 times galactic standard. That level was dangerous for most species and potentially deadly for others. "Morrison, did you say triple gravity?" Veltosh asked carefully. "Yes, sir," Jake replied while doing simple stretching. "Exercises. I want to push my limits. If this training is supposed to help me improve, then I should make it as challenging as possible." Veltosh looked at his tablet again. The readouts showed Jake's vital signs, and while his heart rate was elevated, everything appeared normal. The human was not showing signs of distress or injury. "Triple gravity is very dangerous," Veltosh said. "Are you certain you want to attempt this?" "I am certain," Jake replied. "But maybe we should work up to it gradually." "Could you increase it to 2.8 times for the rest of this session?" Veltosh hesitated. What had started as a prank was becoming something unexpected. He pressed the controls on his tablet and watched the gravity reading climb higher. Jake felt the additional weight. Immediately. Now every movement was truly difficult, and he had to concentrate to maintain his balance. But he did not fall, and he did not ask to stop. Instead, he continued his exercises, moving slowly but steadily around the room. "This is much better," Jake said, breathing hard but sounding satisfied. "I can feel my muscles working harder already." Veltosh watched in amazement as Jake completed a full 30-minute session at nearly triple gravity. When the session ended and gravity returned to normal, Jake stumbled slightly as his body readjusted to the lighter weight. "How was that?" Veltosh asked as Jake exited the pod. "Challenging, but good," Jake replied, wiping sweat from his face. "I think with regular training at that level, I could really improve my performance." "When can we do this again?" Veltosh was speechless. He had expected Jake to fail embarrassingly and begged to return to normal training. Instead, the human was asking for more challenging sessions. "I will need to check the schedule," Veltosh said. "Weekly, and perhaps consult with other instructors about safety protocols." "Of course," Jake said. "Thank you for arranging this, sir. I think this enhanced training is exactly what I needed." After Jake left, Veltosh remained standing outside the training pod for several minutes, staring at his tablet. The data was clear. Jake had not only survived double gravity training, but had requested triple gravity and performed well at nearly that level. Drixal appeared from around a corner where he had been watching. "Well?" the Zephyrin asked. "Did the human quit?" "No," Veltosh replied slowly. "He asked for more gravity." Drixal made a sound that might have been laughter. "More gravity? You are joking." "I am not joking," Veltosh said, showing Drixal the tablet readings. "He wants to train at triple gravity. I do not think we understand human physiology as well as we thought." Drixal studied the data with his compound eyes. "This is impossible. No species can adapt to high gravity this quickly." "Apparently humans can," Veltosh replied. "And now I have promised him more training sessions." The two aliens looked at each other with growing realization. Their prank had revealed something unexpected about human capabilities. What they had intended as humiliation had become genuine discovery. "What do we do now?" Drixal asked. Veltosh looked back at the training pod. "I think we need to learn more about humans before our next session with Morrison." Neither of them realized that Jake's request for triple gravity training would soon become the talk of the entire academy. The news about Jake's gravity training spread through the academy faster than anyone expected. By the next morning, instructors and cadets were talking about the human who had asked for triple gravity training. Most of them did not believe it was true. Dr. Lara Chun was one of the first to hear about it. She was the Academy's chief medical officer and xenobiologist, responsible for understanding how different species responded to training. When Veltosh came to her office that morning looking nervous, she knew something unusual had happened. "I need to report a training incident," Veltosh said. Setting his tablet on her desk, Dr. Chun was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been studying alien physiology for 20 years, but humans were still new to her. "What kind of incident?" Veltosh explained what had happened in the training pod. He showed her the data from Jake's session, including his vital signs and performance measurements. Dr. Chun studied the information carefully. "You put him at 2.4 times standard gravity?" she asked. "Yes," Veltosh admitted, "and he asked for more." Dr. Chun looked up from the tablet. "This is remarkable. According to our records, most species cannot function above 2.0 times their natural gravity. Some cannot even survive it." "That is what I thought too," Veltosh said, but Morrison seemed comfortable. He wants to train at 3.6 times standard gravity next time. Dr. Chun stood up and walked to her window, which overlooked the main training area. She could see Jake down below, working out with his squad. Even at the distance, she could tell he was moving differently than before. His steps seemed lighter and more confident. "I want to monitor his next training session," she said. "This could be very important for understanding human capabilities. Is it safe?" Veltosh asked. "I do not want to injure him." "We will take all necessary precautions," Dr. Chun replied. "But if humans can truly adapt to high gravity this well, it changes everything we know about your species." Meanwhile, Jake was experiencing the benefits of his gravity training during regular exercises. That morning's physical training felt completely different. When the squad practiced obstacle courses, Jake moved through them like they were barely there. His jumps were higher, his climbing was faster, and his endurance seemed endless. "Morrison, what have you been doing?" Commander Vexstar asked after Jake completed the course in record time. "Extra training, sir," Jake replied, not wanting to reveal too much about his sessions with Veltosh. Crichton watched Jake with his compound eyes. "You are moving differently, faster." "I feel stronger," Jake admitted. "The training here is really working." Lisa looked suspicious. "What kind of extra training?" Before Jake could answer, another cadet approached their group. It was Drixel, Zephyrin, who had been with Veltosh the night before. He seemed excited about something. "Morrison," Drixel said, "is it true that you trained at double gravity yesterday?" The question caught everyone's attention. Other cadets nearby stopped their conversations to listen. "Where did you hear that?" Jake asked. "Instructor Veltosh mentioned it to some of the senior staff," Drixel replied. "He said you asked for triple gravity. Is that correct?" Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "I did some enhanced training. It was more challenging than normal." "Triple gravity would kill most species," said another cadet, a tall Velthari, named Sindar. "No one can train at that level." "Humans are different," Jake said simply. Word continued to spread throughout the day. During lunch, Jake noticed other cadets staring at him and whispering among themselves. Some looked impressed. Others seemed skeptical, and a few appeared worried. "You are becoming famous," Lisa told him as they sat together in the dining hall. "Half the academy is talking about your gravity training." "I just want to improve my performance," Jake said. "I did not expect it to become such a big deal." "Everything humans do here becomes a big deal," Lisa replied. "We are still new, remember? Everyone is watching to see what we can do." That afternoon, Dr. Chun approached Jake after tactical training class. "Cadet Morrison, I am Dr. Chun, the Academy's Chief Medical Officer. I would like to speak with you about your gravity training." Jake followed her to the medical bay, a clean white room filled with equipment he did not recognize. Dr. Chun gestured for him to sit on an examination table. "Instructor Veltosh has told me about your training session," she said. "I find it very interesting from a scientific perspective." "Is there something wrong with what I did?" Jake asked. "Not at all, Doctor," Chun replied. "But I would like to monitor your next session to ensure your safety and collect data about human adaptation to high-gravity environments." She ran several tests, checking Jake's bone density, muscle development, and cardiovascular system. The results surprised her. "Your body has already begun adapting to the increased gravity," she told him. "Your bone density has increased slightly, and your muscle fibers show signs of rapid strengthening. This level of adaptation usually takes months, not days. Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. "It is remarkable," Dr. Chun said. "I have never seen anything like it. With your permission, I would like to document your training sessions. This information could be valuable for understanding human capabilities." Jake agreed, and Dr. Chun scheduled his next gravity training session for that evening. She sent messages to several other researchers, asking them to observe. By dinner time, word had reached the Academy's senior staff. Commander Vextar found Jake in the dining hall that evening. "Morrison, I understand you have been conducting unusual training exercises." "Yes, sir," Jake replied. "Instructor Veltosh has been helping me with enhanced gravity training." "Triple gravity training," Vextar said, making it sound like a question. "That is the goal, sir?" "Last night, I managed 2.8 times standard gravity." Vextar studied Jake's face. "And you believe this will improve your performance?" "It already has, sir. This morning's obstacle course felt much easier than before." "I see," Vextar said. "Very well. Dr. Chun has requested permission to monitor your training. I am granting that request. But Morrison, if this becomes dangerous, we will stop immediately." "Understood, sir." As Jake prepared for his second gravity training session, he had no idea that half the Academy's research staff would be watching. What had started as Veltosh's prank was becoming the most studied training experiment in Academy history. Gravity training that was supposed to humble Jake was instead making him famous throughout the Academy. 2 weeks had passed since Jake started his gravity training. Word about his unusual abilities had reached every corner of the Academy. Some instructors remained skeptical, while others were fascinated by what humans might be capable of. "Commander," Vextar decided it was time for a real test. "Attention all cadets," the announcement echoed through the Academy corridors. "The Omega trials will begin in 3 days. All squads must report for final preparations." Jake was in the library studying tactical manuals when the announcement came. He looked up to see other cadets reacting with mixtures of excitement and nervousness. The Omega trials were legendary at the Academy. Only the best squads even attempted them. Lisa found him a few minutes later. "Did you hear that? We are actually going to participate in the Omega trials." "What exactly are the Omega trials?" Jake asked. "The most difficult test the Academy offers," Lisa replied, sitting down beside him. "It is a 72-hour simulation that combines everything we have learned: combat, survival, strategy, endurance. Most squads that attempt it fail within." The first day, Jake felt both excited and nervous. "Who are we competing against?" "That is the interesting part," Lisa said. "Commander Vextar signed us up to face Squad Alpha 1. Jake had heard of Squad Alpha 1. They were led by Zarkif, a Velthari cadet who had never lost a training exercise. His squad was considered the best in the Academy's history. Other cadets said they moved like a single organism, perfectly coordinated and incredibly skilled. Why would Vextar put us against the best squad in the Academy? Jake wondered. Maybe he thinks your gravity training has made a bigger difference than we realize. Lisa suggested. Over the next 2 days, Jake continued his enhanced training. Sessions. Dr. Chun and her research team monitored every session. Jake was now training comfortably at triple gravity for full hour-long sessions. The data showed his physical capabilities had improved dramatically. "Your reaction time has increased by 40%, Dr. Chun told him after his latest session. "Your strength has doubled, and your endurance is off the charts. I have never seen adaptation like this. How do I compare to other species now?" Jake asked. Dr. Chun showed him a chart on her tablet. "In standard gravity, you now outperform every species at the Academy in physical tests. In high-gravity environments, there is no comparison. You are in a category by yourself." Jake studied the data with amazement. He had always been a good athlete on Earth, but he had never imagined he could become this capable. The morning of the Omega trials arrived gray and cold. The simulation would take place in the Academy's largest holographic environment, a massive chamber that could recreate any type of terrain or weather. Jake and his squad gathered with the other participants in the briefing room. Zarkith and his squad sat at the front of the room. The Velthri leader was tall even for his species, with silver markings on his pale skin that indicated high rank among his people. His squad mates included the Academy's top students from 4 different species. The scenario is simple, Commander. Vexstar announced to all participants. You are military units dropped into a hostile war zone. Your mission is to locate and secure 3 strategic objectives while avoiding or defeating enemy forces. The environment includes mountains, forests, urban areas, and underground tunnels. He gestured to a holographic map that appeared in the center of the room. Gravity will be set to standard 1.2 times normal. Weather conditions will change throughout. The exercise. You will have limited supplies and must work together to survive and complete your objectives. Jake studied the map carefully. The terrain looked challenging, with steep cliffs and narrow passages. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for anyone to navigate. The winning squad will be determined by completing objectives, survival, time, and tactical effectiveness. Vexstar continued. You have 2 hours to prepare your equipment and strategy. Squad Alpha 1 gathered around Zarkith, speaking in quiet, confident voices. They had done this type of exercise many times before. Squad Delta 7 found a corner where they could plan privately. We need to be realistic about our chances, Crixon said with his clicking voice. Alpha 1 has never lost an exercise like this. Maybe. That is because they have never faced anyone like us, Jake replied. My gravity training has changed everything. I think I can move through that terrain faster than anyone expects. Thalara adjusted her water suit equipment. What if we split up? Jake could scout ahead while the rest of us provide support. Lisa nodded. Jake has become incredibly fast and strong. If he can reach the objectives first, we might have an advantage. They spent the next 2 hours planning their strategy. Jake would take point, using his enhanced abilities to navigate the difficult terrain. The others would follow, providing tactical support and covering his advance. When the exercise began, both squads were transported to opposite ends of the simulated environment. Jake immediately felt the difference. At 1.2 times gravity, he felt like he was moving in slow motion. After weeks of training at triple gravity, the standard level felt almost weightless. This feels amazing, Jake told his squad through their communication system. I can move much faster than I expected. They began their advance toward the first objective, a communications tower located on a mountain peak. The terrain was steep and rocky, with narrow ledges and loose stones. Under normal conditions, it would take hours to climb safely. Jake began climbing the mountain face like it was a simple hill. His enhanced strength let him grip handholds that would not support other species. His improved balance kept him steady on narrow ledges. Within 30 minutes, he had reached positions that should have taken hours to achieve. How is he moving? So fast? Zarkith's voice came over the communication channel. Alpha 1 was watching Jake's progress through their tactical displays. Impossible, replied one of Zarkith's squad mates. No one can climb terrain like that. But Jake was not just climbing. He was practically flying up the mountain, moving from ledge to ledge with jumps that covered impossible distances. His gravity training had given him capabilities that no other cadet possessed. Within 2 hours, Squad Delta 7 had secured their first objective, while Alpha 1 was still navigating the lower slopes. The simulation that was supposed to last 3 days was about to become something completely unexpected. Jake moved through the simulated war zone like nothing the Academy had ever seen. By the end of the first day, Squad Delta 7 had secured all 3 objectives, while Squad Alpha 1 was still working on their second target. The other instructors watched the exercise through monitoring screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. He just jumped 15 meters across that canyon, Dr. Chon said, staring at her display in amazement. That should be impossible for any cadet. Commander Vextar stood behind her, watching Jake carry equipment that normally required 2 cadets to lift. Perhaps we have underestimated human capabilities. In the simulation, Jake was not just outperforming expectations, he was rewriting them. When enemy forces attacked his squad, he moved so fast that the holographic opponents could not track him. He could carry wounded team members to safety while still fighting effectively. His endurance seemed unlimited. "Jake, slow down," Lisa called over the communication system. "We cannot keep up with you." Jake was already at the 3rd objective, a supply depot hidden in an underground tunnel system. "Sorry, this gravity feels so light that I keep forgetting. You are not training the same way I am." Crixon and Thalara arrived several minutes later, breathing hard from trying to match Jake's pace. "How are you not tired?" Crixon asked. "I feel like I could do this for another week," Jake replied honestly. Triple gravity training makes everything else seem easy. Meanwhile, Squad Alpha 1 was struggling with challenges that Jake had solved. Hours earlier, Zarkith was beginning to understand that this exercise would not go as planned. "How is Squad Delta 7 moving so fast?" asked Thalanara, his second in command. "The human," Zarkith replied grimly. "Morrison is performing beyond any parameters we prepared for." Zarkith was one of the Academy's best tactical minds, but he had planned his strategy based on normal cadet capabilities. Jake was operating at a level that broke all the rules. On the 2nd day of the exercise, the simulation introduced severe weather conditions. Heavy rain and strong winds were supposed to slow down both squads and make the terrain more dangerous. Instead, Jake seemed unaffected by conditions that forced other cadets to take shelter. "The weather is not slowing him down at all," observed Instructor Meltar, a Zephyrin who taught survival techniques. "He is moving through that storm like it is a light breeze." Jake's enhanced strength and balance, developed through gravity training, made him stable in conditions that would knock down other cadets. He could maintain his footing on wet rocks and keep moving when visibility was nearly 0 by the end of the 2nd day. Squad Delta 7 had completed all their primary objectives and begun working on bonus challenges that most squads never attempted. Squad Alpha 1 was still struggling to reach their final target. "This is unprecedented," Vextar announced to the assembled instructors. "In the history of the Omega trials, no squad has ever completed the primary objectives in less than 60 hours. Squad Delta 7 finished in 36 hours. The final day of the exercise became a demonstration rather than a competition. Jake helped his squad tackle challenges designed for the Academy's most advanced students. They cleared underground tunnel systems, scaled impossible cliff faces, and navigated obstacle courses that had defeated squads with years more experience. When the exercise officially ended, Jake was still moving at full energy, while most other cadets were exhausted. Squad Alpha 1 had completed their objectives, but finished nearly 12 hours behind Delta 7. Exercise terminated. Came Vextar's voice over the communication system. "All squads report to debriefing." The debriefing room was packed with instructors and senior cadets who had been watching the exercise. Jake and his squad entered to find everyone staring at them. The room was completely silent. Zarkith approached Jake directly. The tall Velthari looked tired and somewhat confused. "Morrison, I have competed in dozens of exercises like this. I have never seen performance like yours. How did you achieve this level of capability?" "Gravity training," Jake replied simply. "Instructor Veltosh helped me set up enhanced training sessions at triple gravity." All eyes turned to Veltosh, who looked extremely uncomfortable. He had not expected his prank to create the Academy's new star cadet. "Veltosh," Commander Vextar said slowly, "perhaps you could explain this enhanced training program." Veltosh stood up reluctantly. Initially, it was meant to be ... He paused, realizing how his original plan would sound. It was meant to help Morrison improve his physical performance. I did not expect results like this. Dr. Chun stepped forward. Based on my monitoring of Morrison's training sessions, I recommend we develop a formal gravity training program for human cadets. The physical improvements are remarkable and could be valuable for specialized missions. What kind of missions? Asked Admiral Kextron, the Academy's commanding officer, who had arrived during the exercise. High-gravity worlds that other species cannot safely visit, Dr. Chun explained. Hostile environments or enhanced physical capabilities would be crucial. Deep space exploration missions requiring extreme endurance. Admiral Kextran studied Jake carefully. Morrison, you realize that your performance in this exercise has changed how we view human capabilities? I just wanted to succeed at the Academy, sir, Jake replied. I never expected it to become this important. Your species continues to surprise us, the Admiral said. We brought humans into the galactic community, expecting them to fill support roles. Instead, you may be capable of missions that other species cannot handle. Veltosh finally stood up completely. Morrison, I owe you an apology. The enhanced training was originally intended as a test of human limitations. I did not expect you to exceed every parameter I set. Jake looked at the Velthri instructor with understanding. You were trying to see what humans could do. I guess we both learned something. Indeed, Veltosh replied. I learned that human determination, combined with proper training, can achieve what we thought was impossible. Admiral Kextran addressed the room. Effective immediately, Morrison will be transferred to the Advanced Program for Specialized Mission Training. His gravity training protocols will be studied and adapted for other human cadets. Jake felt overwhelmed by the attention and the sudden change in his status. A few weeks ago, he had been the squad's weak link. Now he was being fast-tracked for advanced training. Sir, Jake said to the Admiral, I am honored, but I would like to continue working with my squad if possible. Of course, Admiral Kextran replied. Your squad will be advanced with you. We want to study how humans work together under enhanced training conditions. As the debriefing ended, Jake reflected on how dramatically his situation had changed. What began as a prank designed to embarrass him had revealed capabilities that amazed even himself. He thought about his family on Earth and realized he would have incredible stories to tell them. More importantly, he had proven that humans belonged in the galactic community, not as junior partners, but as valuable contributors with unique abilities. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges that required beings capable of adapting and enduring extreme conditions. Jake Morrison had shown that humans might be exactly what the galaxy needed, even if no one had realized it before.